As George Washington said in his farewell address, religion.
It's also funny with these PragerU videos because you'll notice there's so much like dishonest argumentation. Like they'll make a claim and then they never back it up. They just immediately move to some other topic that's sort of vaguely related so that it tricks you into thinking they just provided justification for what they just said.
Religion and morality are indispensable supports of our political prosperity. Washington.
So,
Do you agree with that?
let me go back. Religion and morality are indispensable supports of our political prosperity. I don't know if I would say religion. I'd say morality, obviously. Is. But then morality and
religion is morality.
They're so baked in together.
Religion,
yeah, I guess I would agree with that.
Religion is a system to teach morality to a large number of people as simply as possible.
Well, I would agree with that, but I would also agree with the inverse of that, which is that religion and morality are indispensable to political destruction.
What?
Because
what do you mean?
Because it all depends on what your religion is. Like the woke religion is totally going to destroy the country, right? If left unchecked.
I guess, yeah. And they've come up with a way to put that ethic into the culture, to teach that ethic, but it's an untested ethic. I mean, we're testing it right now for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. But this is what I was talking about, where I said, generally when people lie about history, what they do is that they'll choose a source. So if you look at like some of the most famous founding fathers, who do you think of? You think of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson,
Benjamin
Madison,
Franklin, the best
Benjamin
of them all.
Franklin. Yeah. I said Madison. You think of these people, right? So it's funny because out of all the people, all those people that you think of, George Washington was the one that was the most pro religion, being involved in public life or being involved in maybe even government life. Mm-hmm. So they choose him as if he's representative of all founding fathers. And it's interesting because even George Washington, if you look at his actual words and his belief system, like he would go to church. Everyone would go to church back in those days because that church was your social.
There's
group.
Nothing else to do.
There was nothing else. Well, that's how you like interacted with people. So you went to church. But when he would go to church, he wouldn't even take communion, and it would piss off his priests.
Oh,
or his
really?
Preachers, I guess, specifically, or pastors or whatever.
Eat the damn cracker.
Yeah, but it's funny because when you look at George Washington's words, this is a military general. Okay, mm-hmm. So he always viewed things like strategically. He was like. He had a very similar view to religion as you do, Adam, where he was like, oh, religion is important to making men stay in line, making men defend their country, making men be moral. Like whenever he talks about religion, it's always kind of in terms of it serving a goal. It's not in terms of like believing in faith or being actually true.
Have you seen that episode of Futurama where Bender is a god? Oh, God, yes. I love that episode.
Where he's floating in space?
Yeah.
Right.
He's like, you got to have a light touch, like a safecracker or a pickpocket. That's how morality works.
No, I just think I think it's funny in this context that the one founding father they can point to as being the strongest advocate for religion being in the government. He didn't even like believe religion. He just believed it like for utilitarian,
he's
pragmatic
Bender.
reasons. He's Bender. He's just saying like, this just helps society. And also it removes the context of Washington's entire farewell address because people were afraid that when Washington left the presidency, that the country was going to be split into two. Because mm-hmm. It's really funny. The exact same political dilemma that exists right now existed in 1776, existed when this was all going on between two political parties. I think it was like the Federalists or the Democrat Republics.
Isn't that totally crazy?
It is crazy.
We're facing the same thing
arguments
in this election.
The same political arguments were threatening to split the country apart. And it's interesting because George Washington he symbolized like the independent. He was kind of viewed as not being like heavily vested in either political party. And so both Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton, who were on opposite political sides, they both begged George Washington to be president for a second term because they were afraid if he wasn't president again, the country would fall apart. And so his farewell address, if you read the whole thing in context, it's all about trying to foster unity among American people, foster unity among the country. And he talks about how like he uses like religion as our shared experience that, you know, binds America together. So that's the entire so if he's removing the entire context of what George Washington was even talking about.
Do you think Trump is going to deliver something like that if he doesn't win a second term? Why are you laughing? You don't think Trump is going to do a magnanimous exit?
No, I think he's going to say it was rigged against me. Okay.
Man, that's scary. I hope not.
Well, I mean, you think, okay, regardless of whether you want Trump to win or not, I don't think anyone thinks that if Trump loses, he's going to give some magnanimous healing speech about bridging the country's divide, right?
It's funny because remember when the shit hit the fan with Al Gore and George W. Bush, and like no one knew who won the election.
Mm-hmm.
Al Gore immediately took the magnanimous stance, and it kind of lost him everything.
Exactly.
I don't know that kind of thing is even possible now, to be honest with you. Like, I feel like either party, whoever loses, maybe not as much with Joe Biden, but I feel like people are always going to think that it was rigged. There's always going to be a contingent that thinks no matter which way it goes that it was rigged.
Right. I mean, I would be curious if Joe Biden loses, is he going to say it was rigged? Is he going to say it was Russia interference?
Yeah, maybe. That's what I was weighing. I'm like, okay, would he do the Al Gore route, or would he just saddle up on Rachel Maddow and say it was Russian meddling, Chinese meddling, TikTok, this and that?
Right. Yeah, no, it could be, as you said, maybe it's impossible for either candidate to have a good approach to losing.
Yeah, what's going to happen? I don't know. It's so close now, and the stakes are so high because of technology now. I mean, winning is everything.
So I have some quotes here from George Washington. Here he is talking to the America's oldest Jewish synagogue, where he says, "May the children of the stock of Abraham who dwell in this land continue to merit and enjoy the goodwill of other inhabitants, while everyone shall sit in safety under his own vine and fig tree, and there shall be none to make him afraid."
That's beautiful.
George Washington.
I wish I understood what it meant.
George Washington is giving solace to the Jews, saying you don't have to be afraid of religious persecution in America.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome.
Isn't that nice? Yes. Yeah. He even George Washington was very big against the idea that there would be some religious test to serve the government. He says, "In this enlightened age and in the land of equal liberty, it is our boast that a man's religious tenets will not forfeit the protection of the law, nor deprive him of the right of obtaining and holding the highest offices that are known in the United States."
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Washington remained the nation's view throughout the 19th century and into the...
You think he has a source to back any of that claim up?
His butt?
Or even a source to back up the claim that George Washington wasn't in favor of separation of church and state at all?
No.
Because here's the thing, and here's part of the sneakiness. The quote is, George Washington says that religion and morality are indispensable supports of our political prosperity. Okay? You agree with that. I agree with that. And yet we still both support separation of church and state. This quote does not mean George Washington is against church and state being separated.